to sign up to this, and I guess life happens, and then there were like over 40 people, and maybe people will join throughout. But thank you for joining us, for filling out the form, and for coming tonight. If not, people may be watching the live recording that we'll post later today. But as we get started, I will just do our acknowledgement of country. Even though we are meeting online and potentially all on different lands, I want to take this time to acknowledge the traditional owners of country throughout Australia and recognise their continuing connection to land, waters and culture. I pay my respects to the elders past and present and emerging, and I invite you to do the same. So thank you for joining our 12th Mornington Peninsula Google Educator group. Really excited to have you here, which in theory will be our last online event. We have the term through date locked in already, so people can pencil that in, and that will be a hybrid session on campus and online as well. So you can be anywhere around the world if you would like to, or at Toorak College as well. So I will share those dates at the end of our session, but I wanted to welcome all of our presenters tonight. Quickly before we get started, so we have Kristy Kendall, Principal of Toorak College, joining us. And then we have Kimberley Hall from Google in the Melbourne office. And then we have Betcher from Google in the Sydney office. And then we have Steve Smith from Google in the New Zealand office. So thank you so much, everyone, for being here tonight. It's really exciting to have you here. And I will just pass over to Kristy to introduce us, as she always does, for our Google Educator group. And then we'll get started with Kimberley. So thanks, Kristy.
Well, thank you, Phil. And I feel like we're starting with that Sesame Street song, which one of these things is not like the other, because I'm your only presenter tonight who is not working in a Google office, who does not have the pleasure of ice cream daily, although I guess I probably could snatch it from the young students if I really wanted to be cruel and horrid. I am very excited, obviously, to see everybody again this evening, and I really look forward to welcoming you physically to Toorak in term 2. But I thought what was really significant, I just spoke to my director of business here, and I said to him, do you know what today is? And staff I work with are very used to me saying, is it your half birthday or your quarter birthday or your 3/4 birthday? Because I celebrate all and in between. And I said, no. I said, this time on this day last year, we had made the decision 24 hours ago to decide to go online for a trial for a week at the end of term. Uncertainty was mounting, fear was building. And I remember distinctly walking alongside, a year 1 student who said to me, will we be here tomorrow, Mrs. Kendall? And we started to realise that maybe greater than the health risk that was at that point becoming a very real threat, but the mental risk, that threat of uncertainty, unsuredness, and living in that state was what was so difficult. And this day, 24 hours, it feels like that, doesn't it? 12 months ago, a year ago, was the first day we started to pump the air and said, we've made the right decision. We've told the community we're going online next week, and we finally feel back under control. And then at around about 9 o'clock tonight, I received a phone call from a parent, and it was our first positive case of COVID in our community. And of course, very quickly, the rug moved, and my director of business, Sarah, and I were both on the phone till very late, 9, 10, 11 o'clock at night, trying to talk to DHS, our board. What do we tell our community at 11 o'clock? Do we really want any of them to read an email at this time? Do we shut tomorrow? Do we open? It was a really full on, I guess, 24 hours. But what I think surprises me most about that is not only how much all of us have accomplished in that year that's taken place, but also where we stand here today, knowing a lot of things for sure. And this group represents something for me I think we know for sure. Collective wisdom, collaboration, and working together are the things that really count and matter if you don't want to stay in a spiral of, look how good I am. You can always find in your own workplace, your own team, your own friends, plenty of validation that we're doing a good job. This is cool. We're doing as well as we can with the resources we've got. We're thinking as big as we can. But the problem with internal validation is you actually don't have very authentic comparative points. But also it really comes from that very fixed belief that I'm doing enough, and it would just be scary to look up and see there could be something more. And what I've always valued about this group is it's not necessarily about adding more, but it's about looking at different ways, different examples, different contexts. And I think the thing I am most heartened to see at this time is how I guess valuable we all know collaboration is, but also the importance of networking. There are so many things in the last 12 months we could not have achieved without networking. And there were so many of these meetings. I remember one that we were in the depths of lockdown, because I know I was at home myself at that time too. And we were just talking about trying to run virtual events for students. How did we bring to life things for students? And I know this group really provoked my thinking. And I'm really heartened, I guess, to continue to work together, to collaborate, but also to continue to question. What is it we do? What else is out there? And how can we continue to share that so that we do what's at the centre of everything that we love, create the best environment for our students. And I guess just finally, but before I hand over to Kimberley for her presentation today, I am also a co-founder of a company called CS in Schools, where we put volunteer professionals into schools right around Australia, I'm about to announce to you tonight. To teach coding, to teach all kinds of computer science skills. And I just wanted to give, I guess, a brief update, because the students you're working with, the teachers maybe you're working with now or will come to in the future, we're now seeing an enormous difference in their proficiency due to some of the work of this program. It is the first year in 2021 that CS in Schools is being taught in every state of Australia. So we are always looking, oh, thank you. Oh, it looks like this is something I planned earlier. I love it. We are always looking for more teachers to be involved. We never have any problems getting volunteers, but getting teachers and schools on board is one of the things that we love to do. And we're also branching out at the moment for teachers who would like to undertake maybe some kind of casual work in connecting new teachers, doing some presentations in Northern Territory and Brisbane, where we have lower numbers. So I guess the program's really branching out, but also the thing I think I'd love you to know is that around about 400 beginning teachers will also be having a crash course in coding proficiency before they move into the profession next year. So you're going to start to see in schools new teachers, graduates in all different areas starting to have increased proficiency in the areas that you love. And again, I'm really excited for this group to stay connected to help to develop and foster that next generation moving through and continue to light that flame and passion in all of our students in our schools as well. So lovely to see your faces. Looking forward to seeing you in person as you move through the year. And yes, I will hand over to Kimberley to get the party going today.
Thank you, Kristy. And I always love hearing from you. I know last year you very graciously gave your time to join us in several webinars around teaching online and that whole, challenge that everybody undertook very willingly. And I think your insights are so valuable. So thank you. And thank you, because I think so many people wouldn't have survived last year without strong leadership. So I know that it was not an easy time to be a leader in a school. So hats off to you. And I also enjoyed on that website, Phil, that you put up the handsome gentleman that we got the side profile of continuously across the screen. I thought that was very well placed by you during that.
Yeah, what a coincidence that it was. I shared that. I actually didn't realise that I was on the front page banner, I promise, but double Phil, there you go.
We've doubled the number of clicks to the site since we added your photo too.
I can only imagine. I can imagine. You should just put more Phil on there and then it would be going absolute gangbusters. So.
Oh, stop. Keep going. No, thank you. Again, thank you, Kristy, so much. I think, from the first GEG, you've always been a real advocate and support of this supporter of this group, which is really amazing. So we look forward to having you at our next event on campus, which will be exciting and surreal for us to all be here. And then I guess I just want to point out, from that, what Kristy opened with, really it is about networking, and our Google Educator group is about networking and is about forming these relationships. And I know we've got some people here in the call that have been coming since the first event. So I think it's really, really important for us to grow and continue growing as a group. But then, as Kristy mentioned, with CS in Schools, even that is a separate network. Like the work I've done with them, I've met some really great computer programmers, and made some new friends there. But then also, you know, Justine, you're on the call tonight. I'm a huge advocate for our GEG group, but also a big fan of CS in Schools. So I think it is a really great program that we are going to hear a lot more about over the years. So lots of networking, very exciting. So I'll pass over to you, Kimberley, and thanks again, Kristy.
Okay, I just booted you off sharing, Phil. So any moment now, it should switch to my screen. Oh, my whole computer. Yep, my whole computer's having a bit of a moment. It could be like the 5 identities with like 30 tabs in each of them that I have open.
Classic Leslie. I love when Leslie does that. We always have a laugh about it. No, you are on your loading screen now. Yeah,
this slide deck that I am sharing does have probably, I mean, Steve and Chris know this one, probably got 50 GIFs, depending on which side of the GIF fence you sit on, in it, and it does take a while to load. I should have really thought that through. Okay, hello everyone. I will jump through. I don't need to reiterate my acknowledgement of country, although I definitely do pay my respect to the traditional custodians in Melbourne. So my name is Kimberley, if we haven't met before. I work with the Google for Education team out of our Melbourne office, and I sort of oversee the bottom half of the country-ish. If anyone does have any questions about anything, that is my email address on the screen, and I am genuinely always happy to talk to people in schools, because that is my background, and you are the most inspiring people in the world to have survived the last 12 months and all be smiling and still actively seeking out PD is genuinely phenomenal. So please feel free to reach out. I'm going to talk about what's new with Google for Education, and I think I have now 13 minutes if we're going to stay on schedule to do that. And there's probably about an hour and a half worth of stuff in here. So we're probably going to skip quite a lot of it, but I will just put a shout out, Chris and Steve, if you if I skip something that you really think I should have said, feel free to unmute and talk over me, which I probably didn't need to give you an invitation to do that because both of you like to talk. Okay, so just kicking off, we had an event a few weeks ago called Learning with Google, where we announced a whole lot of new features and updates to our products that will be coming over the next 12 months. And we are also currently celebrating the 10th birthday of the Chromebook. So I just wanted to start with flagging that it is Chromebook's 10th birthday as we speak. Well, maybe last week or the week before. Unlike Kristy, I'm not as good at the exact date of when the birthday was. But you can see this is a great graph on the screen just to show the innovation that's happened. And if you, obviously you're all on the call because you like some Google for Education tools. If you haven't revisited a Chromebook in the last few years, I would strongly implore you to do so, because you can see the innovation that's happened even in the last just handful of years. They've gone from like 200 policies being available through the Chrome Education upgrade to over 500, and the machines now are so impressive. I got myself a Pixelbook Go last year, and I have to say it is probably one of my favorite devices I've ever owned. It is a very nice piece of equipment. Another thing to flag, in case, you know, we'll all struggle with this for a while. If you did miss it, we are officially talking about Google Workspace for Education now, not G Suite for Education. So the rebranding is official. Last year, the business equivalent of G Suite was rebranded to Workspace, and now Education has followed suit. So you will all be forgiven for calling it G Suite for the next 18 months. But after 18 months, I think that's like the line that we all have to try to call it Workspace. But that is the name. And so when you see stuff online and you're thinking, what on earth are they talking about? That is what used to be G Suite. So all of our collaborative and communication tools under the one banner. Now, as part of that, I will just show you that we also have got, for the first time ever with Google Workspace for Education, aka G Suite, 4 different editions of this. So I'll just very briefly talk you through this so that if you see stuff online, it's not completely convoluted and confusing for you. But we have our standard free version, shouldn't say standard because it's the name of one of them. Our original free version of Google Workspace for Education is our green one on the left-hand side, which is now called Fundamentals. So everything that you have been able to do with G Suite, you can do with Google Workspace for Education Fundamentals. It is free. We have committed internally and externally to continuing to improve our free product and have a free product available for education eternally. I say eternally, I can't predict 100 years' time, but you know, pretty close to, as close as you can possibly imagine. But we also now have 3 options in relation to paid editions of Google Workspace. And these really came out of requests from large institutions that were using what was G Suite and saying, hey, we really love G Suite, but we want to be able to do X, Y, and Z. And we're happy to pay for it because a lot of the features in these editions are advanced features. They are premium tools that there is equivalents in the market for many of them that are all paid. So we have on the right-hand side our like all-in kit and caboodle, I don't think that's the official marketing term for it, Google Workspace for Education Plus edition, which is everything that we build for Google for Education will be at Google Workspace for Education will be in Education Plus. So there's advanced admin tools, advanced security tools, advanced teaching and learning tools, and we'll talk through some of those this afternoon. But basically, if you are a Google Workspace for Education Plus school, then anything you ever see come out around Google Workspace for Education, you will have access to. Between the full kit and caboodle and our fundamentals is our 2 options, and this is directly responding to requests from schools. So our Google Workspace for Education Standard Edition is very much for our admin. So it does all of the advanced security, analytics, data export options are all built into our Standard Edition. And then the other options are teaching and learning upgrade, and this will give you advanced Meet functionalities, which we'll talk a little bit about this afternoon, advanced classroom stuff, and there's a heap of things coming in those spaces as well. Yeah, that's probably about as clear as mud, but that's probably the best I can do to explain it in 1-2 minutes. But if you are at all wanting to know anything more about any of our 4 editions, maybe Steve or Chris, you won't be able to, maybe Steve, could you drop a link in the chat to like the online compare the editions thing? But also please do feel free to reach out. I'm happy to chat with anyone about this. So in light of all of that, we have like a million, it was only really 50, but about 1 million updates that are coming to those editions as well. And so I'm going to go through, as I said, my top ones because I have 8 minutes to do that and talk them through. So there are updates and features coming, new features coming to all of our things. So Classroom, a whole lot of teaching tools, Meet, Chromebooks, accessibility, and our admin side. So we'll jump through our Classroom ones quickly first because I know that many of you are Classroom users. So if you missed it, the thing that was probably simple, but probably the most excited for everybody was that rich text formatting is coming to Google Classroom posts. So you actually will be able to bold and italicize and underline and bullet, etc. Your Classroom posts. And in theory, many of you will already have that because it is a March launch. We are also expanding the languages that our originality reports in Classroom are available in. So they'll actually now be available in 15 languages. And if you are not aware, originality reports in Classroom, you have 5 reports as per class as part of the Fundamentals edition. And with the Teaching and Learning Upgrade or the Education Plus edition, you have unlimited originality reports. Okay. We are building, we know as a response to people having to work from and learn from and teach from anywhere, there are a lot more people who are dependent on the internet, and Australia, our internet kind of sucks. So this offline capability for Classroom is actually, I think, a really great equity piece. And so you'll actually be able to do a whole lot of stuff from originally starting on our mobile Android app, and then it will expand to other editions of Classrooms. You'll be able to do a whole lot of stuff offline. So if you lose the internet, you'll still be able to engage in classwork. We're also improving the photo creation, attachment, and submission for mobile users. It's currently a bit of a laborious process, and this will streamline that. You can see what, like, this is only, I'm like a fraction of the way through. So excuse me for going so quickly once again. I'll put my email address up at the end. So just hit me up with an email if you have any questions about anything. In our paid edition, so Education Standard, Education Plus, we actually are building in a whole lot of data export options to export the data that we obviously have on our users. And for Classroom, there's actually going to be some custom data studio templates available to track real-time engagement, ways that kids are actually interacting with different things through Classroom. This is the thing I'm probably the most excited about with Classroom, because we get such incredible, rich insights into the way that our learners are interacting with the learning tasks we give them by looking at that back-end data. And we have some add-ons. I'm just going to skip that because we don't have any time whatsoever. Okay, so these are now, we're going to move into some more generic teaching tools updates. So the first one is that if you have not used or come across our product called CS First before, great computer science curriculum stuff available through there. We actually have a great integration that has been launched between Google Classroom and CS First, so a really easy way for teachers to pull class lists, etc., so on and so forth. In Google Docs last year, we released the citation feature that has now had an update where you can actually search the web through Docs to do your citations. That's my 10-second blurb of what that one is. Jamboard, a product that went from obscurity into mainstream last year when everybody went, oh, we're learning and teaching online. How do we digitally whiteboard? So this is one of our free awesome products, and we've just released revision history into this, which is awesome because anybody who uses Google Tools will know how amazing version history is in terms of getting a really authentic look into what's happening in your teaching space. Another great one for our forms users is that we will now be saving progress in draft responses to forms. So if you start a form and then you lose your internet, you forget about it, you've got too many tabs open, you can't remember where to go back to it, your draft part of your form response will actually be saved now for 30 days, which is pretty cool, not having to recreate the wheel every day. And I will just flag, and maybe if Steve or Steve, you can drop this in the chat too. We also do have, and I'll just flag this, a great PD series that's just been released by our certified trainers and innovators around the world around using Google Classroom. So if you are wanting to have some ideas around how you can use it for digital storytelling or to foster, emotional well-being, there's some great videos made by real live teachers, like actual people, available in that series. Okay, everybody's like, Kimberley, nobody's understanding a single word you're saying, you're talking so quickly, so I apologize for that, but I am going to continue regardless because I feel told me to do all the updates. So, okay, I have 3 minutes. So what I'm going to do for Meet is that I put this summary slide up because there are like bajillion updates to Meet in the last 12 months and a whole lot more coming as well. So thanks, Justine. I appreciate the positive feedback. So Google Meet, we're all using it right now. Many of you probably survived lockdown, remote learning, using it last year as well. And you would have been aware of how many changes have happened to it in the last 12 months. I thought this is a really great summary of all of the different features that you can do in both the free and the paid editions for Google Meet moving forward. Some of the ones that people have been most excited about, obviously, we can now have greater control over things like who can start and end the meeting. So when the link is actually live, so students can't get into a call before you, or anybody else can't unless you enable that. You can actually set things up in advance through, if you set up a Meet through Calendar, that's just being released, that you can actually set up some things around access to that meeting. You can, if you have the paid edition, we have breakout rooms. You can preset breakout rooms for people coming to the meeting through the calendar. That sort of stuff is pretty cool. One of my favorite things, is it on here or is it not released yet? Is that with our closed captioning, if you haven't checked on our captions, if you haven't checked out the captions in Meet, click on the turn on captions at the bottom of this right now. If you're watching the recording, you can't really do that. So, what is coming is captions. Is that on here in other languages? Am I allowed to say that out loud, Chris and Steve? If I'm not allowed to say that out loud, then everybody pretend that I didn't say that and don't repeat it. Okay, great.
Yeah, I think you might be able to say it out loud, but you might be able to put a little caveat saying soon.
Soon, great. Live translation of captions I personally am super duper excited about that. The idea of, removing some of those barriers from connecting with our community when they don't speak the same first language as us, and actually having it transcribe into another language for you on the screen. Phenomenal. We have things like in our paid edition, noise cancellation, which works really well, although it doesn't drown out my toddlers in the background. I really wish it would. We have larger meetings, recordings, transcripts. There's low light mode, blurred background. I have a custom background. Oh, actually, this is just a standard custom background. I find this background really calming. I like to use it at the end of the day for my meetings, so I feel like it's a calming background. You can change that yourself if anyone wants to play with it right now. There's emoji things coming, a whole lot of other stuff. We could talk about Meet for an hour, but we have no time at all. I'm already actually over time. So hey, I'm going to jump to a few final things with Chromebooks. And then, so as I mentioned, we're just having our 10th birthday for Chromebooks, and we, as part of that, there are a whole lot of new devices coming out, so over 40 new devices being released for education, a whole lot of LTE, which if you're like me and not techie, you're like, I don't know, that's just letters on the screen. Basically, we're talking about like shoving a SIM card in the side and using 4G, 5G ideally, but let's be honest, no one really has 5G, to run your Chromebook, which is pretty cool. We have a new Works with Chromebook program. So when we're talking about accessories, what actually integrates with Chromebook, rather than, buying something off Amazon and finding out it doesn't work, they actually can find all of the certified things through a website now. We've just released Screen Recorder inbuilt into it, which is pretty awesome. It works, it's simple, it's easy to use, and there are a whole lot of really advanced features on the roadmap for this, including like machine learning being integrated into it, and something or other about some word that I still can't remember what it is, and I don't really remember what the definition of it is, so I probably shouldn't have actually started that sentence, but there's some other cool thing coming to it too. I just don't remember what it is. All right, I'm almost finished, I promise. Okay, accessibility. I'm really proud to say that Google has completely rethought the way that they are designing all of their products, and now are designing with the concept of ensuring that every product that we launch is able to be interacted and have the best possible learning experience with it for every single one of our users. So we are designing with inclusivity at the forefront. So some of the things that have already launched, we can now customize our cursor color on a Chromebook, such a simple thing that can make a big difference. There's been a whole lot of improvements to our Chromebox reader and our select to speech, which is a really cool tool as well. And we could talk about that for another 45 minutes, but we won't. And then there are a whole lot of admin updates, but probably the vast majority of you don't deal with your admin console. So I'm not going to talk about these in any length. That has absolutely nothing to do at all with the fact that I don't understand most of them, I promise. But I mean, like, if it did, then it would be a good time for me to defer to one of my colleagues. I'm just going to skip through them. So if anyone's watching the recording, you can read those things that it said on the screen. And feel free to reach out to me, and I will connect you with a very smart person who can help you if you want to know more about those. Okay. Finally, we are just winding up a training series that's been put on globally. I will find the link and drop it in the chat as well. I should have had it on the screen for the recording. Apologies. If you're looking at the recording, you can get the transcript from the chat as well. But this is a really great series where basically all of the things that I just went through in almost record time, they're going into deep dive and actually explaining them and showing you them and using them and talking about the practical use of it. So substantially more impactful than what I just did. Apologies. But this is a great series that you can register. If you register, you can watch all the, or you can see on the screen there, you can watch all the past recordings as well. And that's it. I will say, Phil, that I did talk at 1,000,000 miles an hour, but we did start late, so I actually think I went under my allocated time, which may be a new, I just moved my standing desk, which may be a new record for me as well.
Look, I think, the other day, some students were watching a screencast that I'd created, and I heard that they put it onto, 200%, or, 1.5%. So I'm talking really quick. What I'm going to do is watch this back and then do the opposite. So just slow it down for it. If you're watching at home, just watch it,
Yeah, I wasn't even really talking as quickly as I can. That's a really disturbing part. But I am just going to throw back up my email address again. If my 4,000 slide deck will ever get out. No, come on. Maybe I'll just drop it in the chat. Seriously, I know that was very quick and I apologize, but you have lots of interesting things to learn about with Chris and Steve, so I don't want to take up any more time. So there's my phone. So please drop me an email. Here we go. Got it. Nailed it. So KimberleyHall@google.com if you have any specific questions. Thanks.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Kimberley. Love your work. Appreciate your help tonight. Thank you. Thank you. And now, very quickly, we are introducing Steve from Google New Zealand. How are you, Steve?
Right, so I'm really good. Hey, look, thanks very much for having me over in your side of the ditch, and it's always great. And I mean, you know, I really well done, Kimberley. That deck we've been through many times, about an hour and 3/4, and there is honestly so much stuff in there that we could talk about. It's ludicrous. So anyway, I'm going to jump in and do some stuff around Geo Tools, because why not? I'm an ex-Geo teacher. You're never really an ex-Geo teacher. You're always a Geo teacher. So I'm a geography and social studies teacher. I've been teaching them for years, and I really enjoy playing with a lot of the Google tools, because why not, to be honest? And we were lucky enough to go and see some of the stuff before it was launched a few years ago. Chris and I were invited over to the mothership over in Mountain View, and sat there and saw all this cool stuff come out and got ridiculously excited with a room of other Geo teachers. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through a couple of things really, really quickly to keep in the theme of Kimberley. And what I'll do is kind of show you some stuff and just let you go play with it. And so that's kind of my jam today. So I'm going to present my screen. Let's grab a little tabby tab there. I will start with this one. So Google Earth went digital a number of years ago, and the beauty of the new Earth, I don't think it's even called the new Earth anymore, it's just called Earth. The beauty of Earth now is it works on anything, and two great things: it's collaborative and it's shareable. So kind of ticks two boxes for me realistically, because that's what we want in our tools. And when you go to get the Google Earth page, which I realized I should have done first, not got to this one, but anyway, you can find this little nugget. It's called Earth Engine, and Earth Engine does some really cool stuff that Kimberley can explain about, sort of crunching data together and putting layers of things over it. She'll go a bit more in depth next time, but I'll just say that Earth Engine basically takes some really cool stuff and jams onto a page so we can see it. And my favorite bit is this little bit here called time lapse. And what time lapse does is it creates a time lapse, strangely enough, of heaps and heaps and heaps of satellite photos. And you'll see down the bottom is a slider, which shows you the year. So this is looking at the Columbia Glacier retreat. And what it's doing is taking all the years of Google Earth satellite images and putting it on a slider. And what you can do is you can pause it, you can drag it backwards and forwards and have a look at where things are going. So this glacier here is retreating backwards. And there are a couple of really, really cool things that we can do. So if we go up into this little search box up here and I type in Las Vegas, there we go. So this is the strip. Sorry, I should be speaking correctly. So we jump into Vegas and we can look at 1984 here is the Vegas strip. And what it will do is when we push play, we can watch Vegas expand over the years. Now, there's some really cool things we can do in here. And I do a little workshop called These Are Not Just for Geo Teachers, because there are so many things you can do with these tools. Even just for a bit of a description about, you know, what happened to the people who lived outside here? What would it be like living in a place? How could you live in a place that builds this quickly? And one of the really interesting things I like as well, as I found earlier, is if you have a look at the lake that's up here where the Hoover Dam was built, as the city grows, the lake is shrinking. And there are some really cool things we can talk about along with that as well. And there are many, many lakes you can look at that are shrinking. The best example that we can use with that is a place called the Aral Sea, which is a lake. Strangely, I don't understand why, but it's the Aral Sea. And it's one of those really great examples of what's happening on our planet. And if we zoom into the Aral Sea here, I'm going to zoom back out again because I don't quite want to go that close. Thank you very much. So I'll zoom out a little bit, let it reload. So the Aral Sea, from again the early 80s up till now, when they had some really good high quality images, is showing basically the death of the Aral Sea just in the middle of Kazakhstan. So we can link this into a whole pile of different things. bit of social justice, a little bit of inquiry. Why is it doing that? A little bit of climate change. Newsflash, is real. Not going to get into it. So the other really cool one we can look at as well, which is just visually appealing, is Dubai. So Dubai went from an area of about 50 kilometers of coast to roughly 290 kilometers of coast now. So here we go. We look at Dubai. It's going to all of a sudden spring out into the sea, and we can see the growth of Dubai. So this time lapse shows us anywhere on Earth. You can jump around on Earth and find all sorts of things. You can look at mines. You can look at the Amazon increasing and decreasing. You can look at rivers moving. So there's all sorts of stuff you can look at. You look at the birth of Shanghai and the growth of Shanghai. Amazing, amazing resource. So that's Google Earth Engine. Now, let's switch tabs. So this is the Google Earth main page. When we come to Earth, now, a lot of people jump into Earth and they'll go here, they'll go to earth.google.com, and they'll stop here. If you scroll down, it's kind of a list of all the cool things you're going to see. So we have some really nice videos to help us through using New Earth or Earth. If you go down and you're a little bit older, like I am, you might see this face here pop up. So you can actually play the Where in the World is Carmen Sandiego game on Google Earth. These are a whole of really cool stories. This one here is one of my absolute favorites. It's called This Is Home, and it shows what different people's homes look like around the world. And there's also a really cool one called This Is School. So scroll down when you get to this page and have a look at what's on there. Up here, if we click on More from Earth, that's where you're going to find Earth Engine. Earth Studio as well. If you want to have a play with Earth Studio, go for it. It does some amazing high image graphics. I'm not going to do it now because we'll be here days. So there are some really cool things from Earth in there. But if I just jump over here and go launch Earth, what it's going to do is it is going to launch a page of Earth. So what it will do is it'll take a little while to load as it kind of gets all the data in there. And I realize that my internet is probably having a bit of a struggle as well. So we'll wait for Earth to load. Loady load. Come on. You can do it. You can do it. All right, I'll leave that loading because I've got, again, the theme of the day, I've got way too many tabs open. Let's close that one. I'm going to jump over to the resources page, and I realized I just closed the tab I was presenting, so that was pretty clever. So what I'll do is I'll jump over to the Google Earth resources page. And you can find this from that main page of Google Earth that we were on earlier. So what it will do is it will show you a whole pile of resources that are available for you in your classroom. So here we have some of those really cool stories. And also it has a classroom activity. So a bunch of people got together and they created resources that went with these stories. And if you remember, there's a Carmen Sandiego one there. If we scroll down, we can see a whole pile of really cool ones, different grades, so American grades. There are some really great ones that link in with all sorts of topics. But if you remember the story Home about Carew, this is the guy who got lost and went back to find his way home using Google Earth. So it was a movie made about Google Earth, best movie ever. So this one you can jump into and watch Carew's journey and go to a classroom activity as well. As you scroll down, there's a whole pile of other stuff as well. So that's the resources page that you can find on the Google Earth page. And you can find that under the more information on Google Earth. So that is the resources page. He says, looking, how long have I got? About 6 minutes. Okay, all right. So that page will give you all the stuff you need to help you out, start out by using Earth. So jump in there, find the resources, find the stuff that's written for educators, and it will help you out with using this stuff in some really good context. So once we get into Earth, Earth is loaded here. Hopefully you can all see that okay. So we have Earth. It looks very, very different. We can see in the background, we can see the stars. If you zoom out, you can see more of the stars. If you drag the Earth around, the stars all move. Hopefully you can see that okay. So that's the stars in the background. You can go into all that sort of stuff there. If we have a look over on the left-hand side, there is our search. So we can search for a place. There is the ship's wheel there, which is the Voyager. And if I click into Voyager, that's going to take us into all those really cool stories, the Voyager stories. and they're listed under all these headings under here. So we can jump straight into culture and have a look at a whole pile of different culture stories. Jump over to education. These are ones that are tagged about education. The one about the Underground Railroad here is one of my absolute favorites, and it tells you the story of the slaves leaving America up through the Underground Railroad to get to Canada. So it'll actually take you through their journey. So an amazing, amazing story through there. So that's Voyager. If you want to go to games, and here are a whole lot of quizzes that are quizzes on Earth. There are some holiday traditions, Carmen San Diego's in there as well. So you're playing games on Earth. Pretty amazing, good fun. So that's Voyager, that's the ship's wheel. The I'm feeling lucky is that here's the dice, you click it, and it will take you somewhere in the world. Over on the right, there's a knowledge card that tells you about this place. Now, I've clicked this so many times, and I don't think I've ever been in the same place twice. So it takes you to a different place. Now, the really cool thing with this, what do you think it's like at this place? Who lives in that house? What's their story? What's this road? Where's it going? So you can use these images as all sorts of different writing props, or what do you think about this, or what's happening in this picture, or tell me more about it. If you're a languages teacher, explain this picture in Spanish, for instance. So lots of different things you can use this for. So that's the I'm feeling lucky dice. Down the bottom is the ruler. We can simply measure some distances, or if we close it up, we can also measure the area, and you'll see up on the right here is the area and the perimeter. So some really cool uses for maths in here as well. If we drop these down, we can measure them in all sorts of things. If we do the perimeter, same deal. We can also measure it in smoots. And if you don't know what a smoot is, find out the story of what a smoot is. It's about measuring something in smoots. So I'll leave that for you to go and find out. There's the layers. Click here, what you want yours to look like. But what I want to look at really, really quickly in my last three and a half minutes is this little button here. When we saw all this really cool stuff ages ago, we said, this is amazing. It's great to look at, but we want our kids to create stuff. We want consumers. Sorry, we've got consumers, we want creators. So by using this little button here, we can click on it and we can start what's called a project. So we can create a project. When we click on that, we can either get one out of Drive, because these are now Drive files that live in your Drive. Because they're a Drive file, you can share them like any other Drive file. KML is a type of language Google Earth is written in, the keyhole markup language. So if you ever see something called KML, it's a Google Earth one. Or over here, I can go open. I can open it from my Drive. I can open one that's shared with me. So what I could do is I could start one, put 10 places, share it with my class. They can continue. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over here and I'm going to go create. So if I create a project in Google Drive, what it'll do is it will say, right, it looks like you're starting a new project. So over on the right-hand side, it will give you a little video to tell you what you can do. Simplest way to do it is give it a name. Up here, we've got the creepy head with the plus. You can share it just like any other Drive file. If I go new feature, I can choose what sort of feature I want. I can search, I can add a place mark, I can draw a line, I can go a full screen slide. So if I just go search to add a place, let's go Sydney Opera House. Right, let's see, there we go. Click on that. What it will do is fly me over to Sydney, all the way from States. There we go. Zoom on in there. There it is. So what I can do then is I can add it to my project. You can see over on the right-hand side there is a little button to go add project. Now, because I haven't given my project a name, it's still called untitled, but I'll just leave it there. I'll go save. Now, if I go, there is Sydney Opera House. That's the place we're at. If I click on the pencil, I can then edit this. I can go down here and I can do a whole lot of things with it. I can change the tilt. Let's do that 45 down there. And what it will do is it will give me a 45-degree tilt. I can replace the information up here. So this is the, there we go, I've done that. And that's going to change this place. I can then click on the little camera here and I can add a picture. I can do a Google image search. Let's do that. Let's do a quick search. Let's have that one. Select. what that's going to do is that's going to pop it into this spot up here. And what I'm going to do is I've now got, if I click on my preview presentation, so you can see this is now at 45-degree tilt. It's got my picture I put in here. It's got my information here. So what you can do is you can give the students a place each. They can drop a pin. They can find a place. They can then style their pin how they want it. They can spin it around. They can change direction. So if I was decided that I really wanted to actually look at this from a different angle, actually that's a lot better. So what I might do is I might just change that view to what I currently have. So I'll go back into my pin there. Let's grab it and spin it around, and I'll go capture this view. And what it will do is it'll update that view now. If I go back and preview my presentation, that's what I'm going to see when I go into my presentation. Down the bottom is my table of contents. You can have heaps of things in there, so you can add more and more and more and more stuff. There's a whole lot of things you can do in this little edit piece here, but realistically, when you're in your presentation, let's go back to it. There it is there, new feature, add a new feature. Watch the tutorial down the bottom, it'll step you through how to do it. If we want to grab gender non-specific peg person there, pick them up. Blue lines pop up. Blue lines where the street view car's been. The blue dots is a 360 image that if it's down in Sydney, Chris Betcher might have taken a large percentage of them. If I go over there and drop peg person on that blue line, what it will do is it will jump into street view like that.
I'm going to laugh if that's actually one of mine, Steve.
Fantastic. If you then click on capture this view, it's going to add it to Opera. There we go. Save. There we go. It's now added that to our presentation. Okay, if I go present, here's my first one we saw. If I go next one, it's going to jump into our 360 down there from Street View. So that's a way we can have a play with Google Earth. We can use it for all sorts of things. We can use it to tell a story. We can use it to show where we want to go on our holidays or where we wish we were. We can show it's a place that's really, really important to us. We can look at some traditional areas of our students. So Earth can be used for lots and lots of things, not just stuff by geo teachers. So figure out how you could use it. It's an amazing, amazing tool. Go up the top to the creepy here with a plus, share it amongst lots of people. It's just a drive file. Give it a go.
Awesome. Thank you, Steve. That was great. Thank you. Every time I watch one of your Geo Tools sessions, I was like, I'm going to do that in class tomorrow, and I really will. I think it's a great point you said. Not just for those humanities, commerce teachers. Even English are looking at narratives that are created through all of that as well. So thank you for your time, Steve. That was great. Awesome.
Absolute pleasure.
Awesome. And Chris, ending with Chris and our professional development programs, linking back to what Kristy and I were talking about and how important that networking is. So I'll hand over to you, Chris. Thanks so much.
All right, thanks, Phil. I'll try and be brief, seeing Kimberley used all my time. So I want to talk to you guys about professional development programs at Google and try and simplify it a little bit for you. And look, if you think about all the stuff that Google offers to schools and divide it into sort of three categories, there's access, adoption, and transformation. Access is, do kids have access to software and hardware that lets them do stuff? And we try and make sure that we're providing tools that are free in most cases or inexpensive in the rest of the cases, that kids can actually have devices and software so they can have access to technology. So that's the access bit taken. I really want to talk to you about the adoption piece today, and that is how do we get people, once they have the tools, how do we make them understand how to get the most from them? How do they use them? How do we train people so they have the understanding and the knowledge and the skills to use the tools? And then there's also a stage beyond that I'm not really going to talk about today, and we call that transformation. And that is once you've got the tools, you've got the access sorted out, and then you've got the adoption, people are using it and building skills and understanding how to use these tools. What we're really all after is transformation, because we don't put technology into schools simply to have technology in schools, right? We do it so that we can actually reinvigorate, reinvent, transform what schools do in really positive ways. So, the transformation piece, super important. Maybe we can talk about that another day. Right now, I just want to focus on the adoption piece. And I drew this diagram today because I wanted to, we have all this stuff in what we call adoption at Google. And I was trying to think, how do I simplify this into like a simple diagram? Why is that coming up now? Okay, anyway. So if you think about the Google Teacher Center, right? And so it's, just if you Google it, Google Teacher Center, right? And I'll show you in just a sec. But if you go to the Teacher Center, you'll find there's a bunch of things there for teachers. And the first things you'll find is some training, right? And we have a training course called Fundamentals, and another one called Advanced, and another one called Product Guides. So they're the three main training modules that you'll find on the Teacher Center. Now, they're not the only ones. In fact, if you dig a little deeper, you'll find there's all these other little sort of, I'll call them short courses. Some of them are longer and some of them are shorter, but there's getting started with Google and how to support English language learners and accessibility tool training, using Chromebooks in the classroom, digital citizenship. There's a bunch of courses on the Teacher Center besides just the fundamentals and the advanced course. As well as that, there's two things that aren't actually on the Teacher Center but are kind of related, and I'll just mention them now, and that is the CS First course, so Computer Science First, which is a course that we offer a whole curriculum for schools that use Scratch. And by the way, we've just rewritten with Massachusetts Institute of Technology, we've rewritten Scratch to have a special CS First version of Scratch that's and it integrates really nicely with Classroom. And we also have this set of lessons called Applied Digital Skills. When I was teaching in schools, and I used to teach a lot of computer studies stuff, and one of the most valuable resources I had at the time was this book that I bought somewhere, and it was just a whole bunch of projects that kids could do with technology. And it was run a trivia night, or create a database for a bushwalking club. There was just really practical activities, and it was such a useful resource for me because the kids would do stuff and they'd learn all the skills that I wanted them to learn while they were doing actual interesting stuff. And that's what Applied Digital Skills is. So if you've not looked at that, do check that out. Just Google it, Applied Digital Skills, and there's a whole bunch of projects in there that if kids do the projects, they will learn a bunch of technology skills. So that's all the training stuff you'll find, mostly on the Teacher Center, but CS First and Applied Digital Skills are separate, but you can look them up. Now, if you go and do the fundamentals training or the advanced training, it leads on to you being able to sit for a certification exam called Google Certified Educator Level 1, and the fundamentals course gives you everything you need to know in order to do the Level 1 certification, right? The advanced course, you guessed, gives you everything you need to know to do the Level 2 course. So those two certifications, now why would you get certified? And look, there's a bunch of reasons why people do it. Some people do it simply because they enjoy a bit of a challenge. Some people like to collect the badge. Some people see value in the fact that the next time you go and sit in a job interview and the person interviewing says, how are your technology skills? You've got a better answer than pretty good. So just having some sort of certification or qualification that proves you have the skills you claim to have, I think is a really valuable thing. I've always been a big fan of certification, long before this Google thing came along. So I think it's a great idea. And if you have the skills, I don't know why anyone would not validate those skills, right? So Level 1, Level 2. Now, I mentioned we also have the product guide. So if you simply want to know, how do I use Jamboard? How do I use Classroom? There's a whole bunch of product guides in there you can go to. The fundamentals and advanced courses are more pitched they're written in a way that is designed to reflect the way teachers work. So they'll use classroom examples for things. They'll try and put it in teacher speak. Okay. But ultimately those two lead on to those Level 1 and Level 2 certifications. Now, once you get the Level 1 and Level 2 certifications, the world opens up a little bit. There's a whole bunch of things you can take beyond this point, but Level 1 and Level 2 are kind of like the entryway. If you don't have Level 1 and Level 2, then you can't really proceed into these higher levels. So the first one is what we call certified trainer. So to become a certified trainer, and a certified trainer is someone who trains people, basically. That sounds really obvious, but Yeah, a lot of people want to, either within their role at school, they have some responsibility for training other teachers. So I know, like Leslie, for example, that was certainly your case there, because you were a sort of a tech coach trainer person for your diocese, and so it made a lot of sense for you to become a trainer, and probably other people here as well. To become a trainer, you need to have a level 1 and level 2, right? Because that gets the do you understand the tools question out of the way. Right. And then when you do the trainer course, what you're really focusing on is, how do I train people? How do adults learn? How do I clearly explain things to people? How do I build training resources? Right. So to do the certified trainer, you need to pass a thing called the trainer skills assessment. You also need to produce a short video and produce some other documentation and submit that all. And then that goes to like a review board, if you like, and they'll review that, and hopefully you'll get accepted as a certified trainer. Certified trainers get a whole bunch of really interesting perks, if I can say that. You get a free accounts on all sorts of web tools, WeVideo, and I can't even think of them all. There's so many in there now; they just add them all the time. But there's a ton of great perks. There's a huge community behind certified trainers. There's, I think, roughly about 7,000 certified trainers globally now, and like there's this huge mail distribution group where you'll probably want to turn it off most of the time, but it's an amazing place to dig into when you need answers. So yeah, certified trainer, hugely awesome thing to become if training is your thing. Now, if training is not your thing, if you're not a person who trains lots of people, let's say you work in a school where you're more working one-on-one with people. Well, we have something for that too. We have this thing called a certified coach program. And Leslie Altman, who also happens to be the first certified coach in Australia, can probably talk about this as well. But the difference between the trainer and the coach, if you think about, trainer is typically one person teaching many, and a coach is one person teaching one. It's a one-on-one relationship. It's almost like a mentoring coaching relationship. So the Certified Coach program is a 1-year program that will put you with a mentor that takes you through and gives you the skills on how to actually coach people, not train them. How do I take someone by the hand and sort of work directly with them, sitting side by side, helping them understand how to use technology in really effective ways. In order to do that, you need to do a thing called the Coach Skills Assessment. And of course, you also need a level 1 and level 2 just to prove you know the tools. Okay, so that's certified coach. So trainers and coaches. The other thing that is, Leslie also this as well, and so is Adam, and so is Claire, and so I can see other people on the call who have been through this part of it. Certified Innovator. The Innovator program, we open it up to any educator that wants to apply, and I will say up front that many apply and not everyone gets accepted. It is quite a difficult, not difficult, but there are limited numbers of people who can be accepted. So there's probably lots of great people that should be in here, but we have limitations on how many we can accept at any one time. And to become an innovator, you essentially come up with a really interesting problem that you'd like to solve in education. What is it that really bugs you about schools, about education, about the way kids experience learning? And can you make it better? And so we ask people to come up with problems that they want to identify, that they want to then go through what we call the Innovator Academy, which is when we do it face-to-face, it's a 3-day program. When we did it last year virtually, as Claire did, it was over, I think, was it 8 weeks, Claire? It was over several weeks. I can't remember exactly how many.
It was 8 weeks face-to-face, Chris, and we're still working on projects.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. So regardless of whether you do it virtually or face-to-face, it's a 1-year program where you get paired with a mentor and you work together over the course of a year with regular check-ins to try and get you closer towards producing a solution to this problem that you've identified. I think, I don't want to wax too lyrical about it, but I know most people who go through that program will talk about that it's quite a life-changing experience. It really changes the way they think about education. I can see a lot of nodding heads there. That's good. I'm not making this up. But yeah, so those are essentially the 3, what I will call higher level programs that we offer: the Certified Trainer, Certified Coach, Certified Innovator. They are all slightly different in their own unique ways. You know, one's for training, one's for coaching, one's for people who are doing innovative projects. They all require level 1 and level 2 certification in order to at least get your foot in the door to be into those programs. But they are pretty amazing. The other two things, they're not really specifically things that you guys might apply for, but we also have a thing called the reference school program, where we try and identify schools around the world who are predominantly what you would call a Google school, I suppose. Like they're using Workspace, they're using Chromebooks, they're using Classroom. They have teachers who are level 1 and level 2 certified. So they're a school that you would look at and go, wow, that's a really great example of a Google using school. And we sometimes find those schools and we add them into our reference school program. And that's just a really useful reference point for other schools. You know, I have schools contact me all the time to say, oh, we're thinking about going G Suite, or we're thinking about going, putting Chromebooks into our school. You know, can you point me to an example of someone who's already done that? And so there's about 21 schools in Australia and New Zealand now who are reference schools, but we have many, many hundreds of them around the world. And I think they're useful touch points for other schools who are looking at sort of, what does it mean to go Google? And the last thing there is what you're in right now, which is a Google Educator group. And, there are a lot of people that they like Google stuff. They just like helping teachers move forward with technology, whether it's Google stuff or not, because we're not always Google. But we encourage anyone who wants to sort of, volunteer to do these community events. You can start a Google Educator group. It's exactly what Phil's done here, and we've got Google Educator groups all around the country. Leslie runs one up at mid-north coast, New South Wales. We've got another one down in Lakes Entrance. We've got other ones up in central Queensland. They're all over the place. And of course, there is a bunch of those Google Educator groups have banded together and formed what we call the global GEG, the global Google Educator groups. That it's kind of like a supercharged GEG, where they've all banded together and doing some pretty awesome things on a global scale. So I have other slides here, but I'm not even going to bother showing to you. I think that one slide probably gives you a really good overview of the program and the way it flows through from the teacher centre to the training to the certifications to the higher certifications and everything else around that. So I'll just leave it there, Phil. And if anyone has any questions, feel free to ask. And I'll just put my email address up there again. It's just Betcher, just my last name, betcher@google.com. Like Kimberley said, please reach out if you need anything. I don't know whether we're unusual here at Google. A lot of people at Google, when I say we give our email addresses out, they look at us like we got two heads and go, you what? We honestly don't mind giving our email addresses out because we like helping teachers. If any of you on this call or watching the replay have just heard what I've said about those certification programs and are thinking, I wouldn't mind doing that, reach out to me and contact me. I will give you a free voucher, so you can go and do it. It won't cost you anything. Only obviously ask if you're serious about doing it, and I will give you a voucher code to sit for an exam. Back to you, Phil.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Chris. That was great. I love that visual. I just thought, I need to do a screenshot or something of that. I'll upload that onto our Mornington Peninsula GEG site. That was awesome. I think, there's so many different opportunities that Google do provide for us. And I think, that snapshot there was perfect for us.
I haven't had that approved by marketing, but, it's probably okay.
Well, I think it looked beautiful, and if you can let me know and share that with me, that would be great. We can add that to our GEG site. Yeah, no worries. Would have loved that as well. I'm just going to quickly share here, and won't keep you too long. Again, I just want to thank you all for joining us this afternoon, and to our amazing presenters. That was really, lucky, and we're very fortunate to have 3 presenters from Google this afternoon. And I can't wait to welcome you all. Steve, maybe a bit more challenging for you, but you've got a bit of time now. So Monday, the 31st of May. Locking that in for our Term 2 event. As you can see there, we will be on campus and online. Hooray! Very excited for that event. And because we've got that, extra time to announce that date, we really hope that we do have a lot of schools, not just from the Mornington Peninsula, but from Victoria as well. And who knows, we may even get some interstate special guests there. Chris, put that application in. It would be great to have you all on campus. But of course, best thing from last year is we've learned we can run these and have people join us from all around the world. So hopefully we see you on Monday, the 31st of May. Save it, save the date, share the date with your schools as well. It'll be great to have you at a Toorak College event. It has been a while. And again, I just want to thank you all for attending our 12th event. I hope you have a wonderful Wednesday night and looking forward to that Easter break. It's very close.
Thanks so much, Phil. This was great.
Thank you, Leslie. Thanks for being here and a supporter as always, and to everyone else, much appreciated.
Yep. Thanks for everyone.